Good morning. My name is V. Nguyen, and this is my presentation on endangered and invasive species. So this is my table of contents, and this will be some of the information I'll be sharing with you. So starting off, I will be talking about an endangered organism, where it is currently, or excuse me, what it is and where is it currently, what are the threats for it, and what are the current numbers, how will its extinction will affect the ecosystem and the current efforts to save its population. And then for my invasive organism, I'll tell you about the history and natural predators found in its native home, where is it currently found, and how is that currently impacting the local ecosystem, and attempts to reduce their population. So the endangered species I chose is the African forest elephant, which according to the World Wildlife Foundation is critically endangered. So African forest elephants are one of two types of African elephants. So the one that we all mostly know is the African savanna elephants. So both of them are elephants that are from Africa. The difference is that one mainly is found in the savanna parts of Africa, and then for my specific organism, it is found in the dense rainforest parts of Western and Central Africa. So on the map to the right, that is all of the light green parts. So they are herbivores. They mainly eat fruit, grasses, and tree bark. They are social animals that travel together. Their populations are usually found out through dung counts. So as the group of elephants travel together and they eat, they leave out pile of poop, and scientists will find those pile of poops to get an understanding as to how many of these African forest elephants are left. So up until pretty recently, both African forest elephants and African savanna elephants were categorized into one species, just African elephants. So in the 1800s, their population numbers was in the 26 million. As of 2021, which is when they were able to be distinguished, specific numbers for African forest elephants are under 100,000. And the main threats for this number are deforestation. So these African elephants do live in thick, dense rainforests, and as you know, humans are moving into places or cutting down trees for resources, the elephants are losing their habitat. But the human impact, besides just us cutting down trees for our uses to make paper and toilet paper and other materials, since these forests are also on like near farms as well, as elephants get closer to farmers and have closer interactions with humans, humans will tend to shoot them as just to keep them away from their farms and other land properties, but also something called poaching. I don't know if you heard that term before, but poaching is essentially illegal killing, hunting, or capturing of animals. And there's also a component of trading. So elephants in general are often killed for their tusk, for ivory, and for some people, they also sell elephant meat, and these are hot commodities in the black market. What also makes their numbers hard to recover is that it takes years for them to get pregnant and have babies. So for humans, it takes about 9 months for a baby to form in the womb, and then about, 4 to 6 months maybe after the mom has given birth for the mom to get pregnant again. Well, it takes a little over a year for a fetus to develop in an elephant's embryo in the womb, and then it takes a few years for the elephant to be kind of ready again for it to have babies again. So, how do these African forest elephants impact the ecosystem? Well, as long as they're alive, they can help with plant growth. As they eat fruits and plants and all those good fibrous stuff as they're walking and pooping, it does help seeds to be planted in new places. That also helps a lot of variety of trees to disperse their seeds and plants to disperse their seeds. Otherwise, they would have to rely on other methods like waiting for other animals to eat their fruits or the wind to carry the seeds. But since these animals are traveling in such large herds, they are able to step on very dense growth grasses, which allows smaller plants to grow and thrive. And because these elephants are very big and mighty, they do create water holes in the ground by digging up the ground and allowing rainwater to fill up. So other animals who normally would have to find a pond or some other water hole of their own can now have a nearby water hole thanks to these elephants. With that being said, if these elephants were to go extinct, obviously plant seeds cannot be easily dispersed into new areas. The forests and grounds will be overrun with dense shrubs, which affects other plants and animals. So there are animals who rely on the smaller plants for food and maybe sheltering. So if these taller grass outgrow these smaller plants, other animals will get affected. And many animals and vegetation will have a difficulty accessing water. So since these elephants are currently digging up water holes, if these elephants were to be extinct, a lot of organisms might die due to thirst. So what is currently being done to protect this species? Well, there are safe sanctuaries that allow these African forest elephants to live and reproduce. And these sanctuaries can be found in these dark greens, but also the light green colors on the map to the right. So earlier I mentioned the Wildlife Foundation. It's supposed to be a World Wildlife Fund. So it's one of the many organizations that is raising money to support these sanctuaries and any anti-poaching efforts. Local governments in Africa have tried to crack down on illegal wildlife trading as well as illegal poaching. Obviously, there are laws in place to arrest and fine those who engage in such activities, but also images like "I am not a trinket" being passed around into the world to educate people that do not kill these animals for such a small bit of their body. They are very important to the world, so stop it. So my invasive species is a zebra mussel. So zebra mussels were naturally found in some of the Europeans' freshwater system, mainly in the Caspian and Black Sea. Their natural predators in that area were the silver brim, the common roach, and round goby. Pretty much any fish that was big enough, that has strong enough teeth to eat them. And also many diving ducks did eat them as well. So obviously our zebra mussel friends did not just stay in Europe for a long time. So it is currently found in another location. I'll talk about that in the next slides. But how did it get there to make it such a big problem? Well, boats do this really weird thing by taking in water when it's kind of empty with no supplies, and then dumping the water when it's full of supplies. This is a process called bilge, and it essentially just helps stabilize the boat to make sure it's not too rocky and that it does stay underwater in enough ways. So our zebra mussel friends, got accidentally picked up when the boat was being filled up somewhere in Europe, and then once the boat arrives at its new location, it had to dump out the water, and that's how our zebra friends were introduced. Or excuse me, our zebra mussel friends were introduced. So, speaking of where it was introduced, it was actually introduced in the Great Lakes, a long time ago. So the Great Lakes is this area right here, but now it can kind of be found in a lot of places in the United States, even as far as California, in Texas and Louisiana, and even some parts of Canada. So these tiny zebra mussels are making it such a big deal for the local ecosystem that they're invading. So being that they're so small, they can just be found in a lot of places. First and foremost, they're found in your water area. They are going to outcompete with the native mussels. These zebra mussels can reproduce very quickly and at very large numbers. Every single time it's time for them to reproduce, they lay about 1 million eggs, if I remember carefully. And being that they're so small, they do attach to the native mussels. So these are small and the native mussels are bigger. They'll attach to the native mussels, taking up, essentially having first dibs at any of the nutrients that should have gone to the native mussels instead. So like other mussels, they do filter water, but they are over filtering the water. And you may think that, oh, does that mean the water is cleaner though? Not really, because they are taking in too much nutrients and too much algae, which other organisms in the lakes and ponds, like other types of fish and plants, do need some of those nutrients and some of that algae. Like I mentioned earlier, they attach to hard surfaces, and I mean any hard surfaces. So in the picture on the right, you can see that's being found inside some pipes, water pipes that carries our drinking water and our showering water. And then it's being attached onto lobster shells and turtle shells. And this can make it very difficult for these organisms to just live and swim around. And then as they are eating by filtering the water, they do expel waste, so they do poop as well. And their waste makes your water quality bad. So we tested water quality last time. Well, this water quality is noticeable because you'll be like, this tastes bad. So what is currently being done to make sure their numbers try to stay low? Well, it's kind of hard to get rid of them because, again, they are invasive. That's kind of the whole point of invasive species. There is no natural predator, no good way to keep their numbers down. However, some of the efforts includes putting in chemicals into the water that hurts that type of mussels and not really so much of other organisms. So that includes like a mollicide. For boats and other hard surfaces, like maybe a lake house, homeowners and boaters are being told to use high pressure, high temperature water to essentially cook the mussels so that they can die immediately. Of course, there are people who are diving into the water and physically hand removing these tiny mussels on rocks and other hard surfaces, and just overall educating everyone, especially boaters, about, you know, getting rid of any water that they might have taken in to help their boat out so that they don't continue carrying this invasive mussel around. So these are a list of the sources that I used in my PowerPoints. And that is all. I thank you for your time. Bye-bye.